Hey guys, Abraham Ovadia here. I'm here on the Legally Exhausted podcast with James Horne. He's an attorney out of Port Charlotte.
Lakewood Ranch.
Lakewood Ranch. Oh my God. I was thinking Port Charlotte for some reason. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
So we're here at the FGA Workhorse 2024. We're having a great time, meeting a lot of cool people. Tell us, you're here till Friday, you said.
Yep, same for the whole thing.
It's a week-long course. It's a lot of information. I should be in the class right now. I'm here. The information I came last year was phenomenal. I learned so much. And I've been practicing almost 15 years now, and I'm learning stuff from, they got legends in there teaching some of these courses. And it's really helpful. So I'm happy to have you here. You own your own law firm.
Yes.
What do you guys mostly focus on at your practice right now?
Yeah, so it's going to be, personal injury. I do a lot of medical malpractice, which, not a lot of people do that.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Yeah.
It's definitely a lot of headaches, but I really enjoy. I love the medicine of it.
Okay.
And I work with a doctor who's also a lawyer. He really helps me with the medical side of it, which is great.
Awesome.
And I was trained to do family law, but I do very little of that now. When I first came out, the guy I worked with did PI and family, so I had to learn that by default, basically.
Okay, cool. And so tell me a little bit about you. Did you grow up in Florida? Did you go to law school down here?
Yeah, so I'm one of the few native Floridians. I was born in Bradenton.
Me too. I wasn't born in Bradenton, but I was born in Florida.
Yeah. I was born, and the funny thing is it's Manatee Memorial Hospital. My dad was born there, and now I'm on first name basis with the lawyers who represent them because
you got all the cases against them? Oh no.
So full circle, but so I grew up in Florida, went down to FIU in Miami. Did undergrad and law school there.
I don't know you went to FIU. Go Panthers.
Yeah,
Me too.
there we go.
That's awesome. Okay, cool.
So every now and then it's funny. I run across people who've gone there, and I always rep it and say, go Panthers.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So I went there, graduated, and then came back and got a job offer from a small firm, local firm in the Bradenton area, and I was there for 8 years.
Okay. Now you're on your own.
Yep.
Rocking and rolling. You're loving personal injury. You're doing med mal. Tell me a little bit. How did you get into med mal? Because most people, I've never done med mal. The reason for that is it's very complex laws. There's a lot of specific details within those laws.
Yeah.
And it's also very costly for an attorney to bring a med mal case since 2003 when our favorite low energy governor back then in 2003 passed these reforms to make it harder to bring medical malpractice claims, which sounds great unless you're the person who has been damaged from from a doctor's negligence. And now you're living with these injuries. Tell me, how did you get into med mal?
Yeah, so it really started back in law school. There was a 2-credit hour class, and it was medical malpractice procedure. Because literally, it's like you said, the medical malpractice statute is so complicated, filled with potholes, landmines. Every third sentence is, if you don't do this, it will be dismissed, and stuff like that. So, and it was taught by a guy named, I can't remember his first name, but it's Professor Silva, and he's down in Miami. I think they still, and I've reached out to him sometimes, and had issues. And just, 2 credit hours, just everything about pre-suit and stuff like that. And then when I came out, I got the job at the small firm, and one of the main guys there was doing some med mal with this doctor lawyer, who I work with now. And, so I just started, when you're young like that, you got to figure out to make yourself useful. So I started doing all the screening, and stuff like that. And, again, I really tried to focus in on the cases and, put a lot of energy into them because you need to do that.
Yeah, that's the other thing about med mal is it's a labor intensive case. You really got to focus on that case because there's a lot on the line usually, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
and they fight these things to the death. Even if they're 100% wrong, they will just fight you to the death. And so you got to be ready to go and try every single case you have, because if not, you're going to be, sitting there on first day of trial and saying what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I thought I had a good case, and it's I don't know.
Yeah. In an auto accident, it's somewhat simple. Someone stopped at a red light, they get rear-ended. Liability's there. It's clear, Whatever else happens. It's in the documents, hopefully. But with med mal, there could be things, this person had this complication. Well, it wasn't from the procedure that I did. It's from, they had high blood pressure or something like this, So there's a lot of complexities to that, and you really have to understand medicine too.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I have, cause I have somebody to rely on for that. And then, over the years, you kind of, I'm just listening to so many stories, so many people's stuff. And, you can kind of figure out pretty quickly, like, is this going to be a case or not? Does it make sense to me? Because I got to like sit there and explain it to these people and, and make it understandable to them.
Yeah. And it's going to cost you X amount of time and money to bring that case. Somebody just called me about a medical malpractice case. And I said, look, I don't know if it's a case or not, but, you're going to have to shop around and call 5 different people and see if, one guy might not want it, but maybe the other person, it makes sense for them. Somebody's probably looking for the $100 million medical malpractice case, and somebody's like, hey, I'll take that. That's an easy one for me. I've done that same medical issue a dozen times. There's a guy in Broward County who does his big niche is like kidney failure. He said misdiagnosis of kidney disease.
Oh, interesting.
So somebody goes, they get blood work every 6 months, and it shows that they have kidney problems, but the doctor doesn't prescribe them any medicine, doesn't give them anything to fix it. And apparently kidney disease, once it hits a certain threshold, you're on medicine for the rest of your life, or you're on dialysis the rest of your life.
Yeah, which is horrible.
Yeah. So, and then you have a host of complications. It's not just you're on dialysis. There's a host of other complications that come from being on dialysis as well. So that's his niche. Do you have any kind of niche like that? Or are you more general med mal?
Yeah, I would just say like general. I've done a bunch of different kinds. I've done, one with an issue with an eye surgery. So I learned all about vitrectomies and, how they do all these, different types of procedures. It's really pretty interesting. I've done one, baby case. I haven't done a ton of those. Those get really difficult.
What happened with the baby during the birth? Something happened?
No, it was literally within the first hour of life. It was a really tragic case, where the mother was like breastfeeding the baby. And the nurse just, kind of said, we'll see you later, and when she came back, the baby was, blue and, unresponsive. And
oh no,
they're able to resuscitate the baby, but the way we always said it was, saved her life, but not her brain. Because of the period of time.
Wow.
She was out. So, it was a really tough case. I remember we hired a guardian ad litem, because you have to do that, in the case. And the guy was like, when I first hired him and I called him 3 years later and said, hey, we got it settled. He's like, I never thought I'd hear from you again. Wow. once he heard about the case, and I mean, we just fought and fought and fought, for this family and, really good outcome. But, again, there was no, offers, until like a month before trial, and then we got it settled. So that's the problem with the cases is, you won't get an offer and then, you just got to get it teed up and really get ready for trial. And then boom, right before trial, like they'll give you the number they should have given you 3 years ago.
Right. So I want to ask you about that. You talked about a baby within an hour of life, nurses there, they're breastfeeding the baby, and now the baby's blue. You would think the nurse, the hospital, the insurance companies would say, hey, you know what? This woman just had a baby. We should have given her more attention at the hospital. This should have never happened on our watch.
Yeah.
We're sorry. Let's make some kind of opening offer to see if we can close this horrible part of your life out, and you can move forward with it and take care of your baby. Because, until there's some kind of settlement or resolution, financially, the family's taking care of this little baby that has a brain injury. They're taking care of this baby and learning to deal with this with no compensation, really. There's no help financially. And then, on top of being a new mother, they got to deal with the guilt of this, right? Mm-hmm. But she just had a baby an hour ago. What could she have, she was like probably medicated or
exactly she
in
was
pain, tired. I mean, I saw women go through an incredible thing during birth. My wife, they go, you can't eat until you have the baby. So I go, and I'm not eating either. We're together. We're in this together.
Yeah.
And like 24 hours go by. My wife had not delivered the baby yet. And I'm there and I'm starving. And I'm like, I had a panic attack. I was sweating. I started getting like a fever and chills. And she's like, just eat something already. And I'm like, no. She's like, I'm hooked up on an IV. I got a fluids coming in. Ice chips. And I'm like, no. And then I literally, it was a horrible experience for me as a man. I couldn't, what women go through after or during labor and after is incredible. And so you'd think that they'd make an offer, but they don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just, again, they just want to see what you got, because we had a couple experts and stuff like that. They had to do a good job, and really, back up the case and stuff like that. And, we did a mock trial with Harvey Moore. He's a big trial consultant. I think he's retired now.
Okay.
But we did a mock trial of the case, and one thing that we kind of found that was, I think, interesting is that the women on the panel that had a baby when they were younger in life, they were like, "What's wrong with this? Mother, why didn't she? I mean, what's the big deal? I was young. I figured it out. I didn't have any issues." And then you had the total opposite of the women who had, child 30 years old, late 20s, and you're like, "Oh my God, how could they not sit there with her and teach her? This is so difficult." And stuff like that. So it's like this interesting dichotomy, right? Because it was like, all right, well, we obviously don't want the young mothers, on the jury, because they're going to just hammer her and say, and stuff like that. So it's just kind of it was a fascinating case, just very interesting.
That's interesting. So you guys went through like a mock trial to see what type of juror you would want. Is that part of it?
Yeah. So they look, and of course, you do
kind of like a focus group, right? Is that
like
what it was?
Focus group.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was like, we went to his office in Tampa, and he's got a big, room there, and it was all recorded, and they let the people like have a little, I guess when they do it a lot like politics, when you have like a politician speaking, and they'll like, say, do they like what they're saying or not? Like in real time.
Okay.
Like these little like things on the,
that's really cool.
Yeah. It was just insane what they did. So you try different things, and they'd say, "Hey, why don't you go in there and say this or that?" And, so that was just, really good experience.
That's an incredible experience. That sounds really helpful for your client. I mean, clients don't see that kind of preparation that goes into what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's very thorough. Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, I'm sure the damages, the money needed to take care of that child for the rest of its life are enormous. So you had a lot of weight on your shoulders, right? You had to make sure this went good, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's very high, very high stakes and high pressure and stuff like that to do right by these people. And like I said, the defense bars are all excellent lawyers and stuff like that, and very
bunch of gray-haired, very experienced group of people, and they've got a lot of experience doing that. So. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's incredible.
They don't hire the 2-year-old lawyers, like out of law school.
No, they get the case early on, and then later on, when you got to go to depots and stuff, you're like, "Who's this guy?" They go, "I'm the partner." And you're like, "Crap."
Yeah, you're like, well, I like the other person better.
I like the other guy. Bring him out here. Yeah. Wow. So that's an incredible story. You really went to bat for your client. How long did that case take, by the way?
I think like 4 years, I'd say. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of how old she was when we settled it, but I think it was like, she was 3 or 4 years old.
And you guys settled it right before the trial?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're allowed to share, but if you went to trial, do you know what number you were prepared to ask for? Are you allowed to talk about that? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we would have gone to trial, which, we didn't, we would have probably been definitely asking for 8 figures. Somewhere in that. I mean, it was just a really tragic case.
Yeah. Did you guys have like a life care plan for that? Mm-hmm. Estimated future medical expenses and all that?
Yeah. We had a really good life care planner. I think he did a bunch of life care plans for all the NFL concussion settlements and stuff like that. So he came out and did an evaluation of the client. The defense did their person. Mm-hmm. They flew him in from Miami, and we went to the airport. And
wow.
and like, we did the evaluation there at the airport and like one of the hotel rooms there and stuff like that. And we, you always want to have it either video recorded or, depots. And I just remember the videographer we had there was like this guy, I don't know who hired him, but somebody from my office did. He literally showed like the old school camcorder, on like a tripod. And he was just like moving around the room, like these crazy shots and stuff. And I'm like, can you just set like a camera up,
Yeah, just set up a tripod in 2 corners and leave me alone.
Yeah, just but it was just the guy was just taking it super serious. Which I guess I appreciate it, but I was just like, all right, chill.
It wasn't what you were expecting. Yeah. Dennis is here and Diego and I'm getting on the shuttle from the hotel. We're staying at the villas and coming here to the main hotel. And They were sold out. And Dennis is like, hey, let me follow you with the camera. I go, dude, get that thing away from me, man. I don't want to be, I'm not an Instagrammer. I don't want cameras on me. It's uncomfortable for me to have cameras around. This is a little different because they're set up on tripods. We're just having a conversation. But for that, it's I could imagine for your client, it was uncomfortable too, right? Having some guy walk around with a camera all over the room.
Yeah. I mean, he had like a little thing on the back, and he was just like, zooming around the room and stuff. And I'm just like, all right, like whatever, dude.
That was his moment to shine.
Yes. I don't think I ever watched the video.
Oh. So don't tell him that he's jump off a bridge right now.
I never ended up watching the video. I don't know if we got a copy of it, but I was just like, I was like, all right.
But if you needed it, it was there.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
There. So tell me a little bit about maybe like another case. That's a really interesting case, by the way. That's incredible. Tell me a little. Maybe you have another case that you like, or maybe has an impact for you, helping a client, something like that.
Yeah. I had a really interesting case. It was about 2 years ago. It was actually here in Orlando.
Okay.
And so I got it from a law firm in Louisiana. The guy was from like New Orleans area, and I had done BP claims with one of the attorneys there.
Oh,
so
man, we're going to talk about that. Okay.
Yeah. So we did, BP, I did BP claims, whenever those were, happening. And then, so he referred the client to me. And it was kind of a really interesting case. It was like a theoretically like a trucking case, but it really wasn't. So the guy, he was delivering a load of paint to like Sherwin-Williams, like, mega factory here in Orlando.
Okay.
And so he dropped off his paint, and he went, around the front of the, I guess, like the parking lot area, and parked, his car, because I guess he said, well, I want to drive to New Orleans. I'd have like 2 minutes left on my time. And if you go less than 4 miles an hour, the thing doesn't, register that you're driving. So he'd drive it like 50 feet, park it there. And, he'd sleep, because you got, I guess, I don't do a lot of trucking cases, but you can only drive for so long.
There's regulations about how much sleep you need, how many miles you drive, stuff like that. And they're supposed to keep a log and all that.
Yeah. So he was doing that, and, he had timed out for the day, and, he's driving around the front of it. And he said that people would park there a lot of times, and stuff like that. So he was like, all right, so I'm going to park there. So he parked his truck. He's up in this bunk. It's like, 6 feet in the air, he said. He's sleeping, and, like, I don't know, 5 hours later, 6 hours later, he feels a big boom, like the whole thing, the cab shaking. So he's like, what's going on? And, he starts to get up, and the problem is the guy hit him a second time, which caused him to fall out of his bunk, boom, into his cab, on his knee, all these, types of injuries. And so, it was one of those cases where the defense agreed that he had like a meniscal tear in his knee, but he had like prior neck injuries and stuff like that, which he had like a surgery recommendation. And so they were like, hey, we'll, give you 125 for the knee. This is like leading up to trial and stuff like that. My client's like, no, I want like the limits. This is a big deal to me. He had shoulder injuries, he had a hip injury, and all this other stuff that we were saying. And
did he have surgery on the knee?
The thing is, he didn't.
Oh.
So he had like 4 surgery recs, and he hadn't done any of them. And he was, he just said, listen, I just don't want to do it. By the time of the trial, he was like using a cane and stuff like that, like this big guy. I think former like football player or something like that. And, so it was just like it was such an interesting trial, and it was just one of those things where everything went right. So on 35,000 in past meds, we got 1.3 million.
Hello.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, it was like, everything went right. It pretty much gave me every single thing I asked for. I got
it went right because of the preparation that you put into your cases, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it was like, yeah, exactly. I mean, I studied, I listened to all the Keith Mitnick stuff, and do all that kind of stuff. And I'd tried a bunch of cases throughout my career. Maybe that was like number 12 or something. That was like one of the first ones I did all by myself.
Okay.
Did the whole jury selection.
Wow.
Did the whole trial myself. Like I said, it was just such a great result. And it was like, I was able to just like, take everything they were saying and just put it right back in their face, like, one of the things was, what was the guy saying? They were trying to, they started like, oh, this is an old man. He's bigger. He's like, heavier. And, all these problems he's having must be just because he's just old and fat and big.
How old was he?
I'm trying to think. I think he was in his 50s.
How tall was he? How much did he weigh?
He was like 6'4", like 300 pounds. He's a big dude.
Yeah. I'm 6'2", 240.
He's bigger than you.
He's bigger than it's 300. 6'4", it's 200. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he was there, and they were asking my orthopedic experts, like, well, isn't it true that, people that are bigger, they put more wear and tear on their joints and all this other stuff? And I was thinking, I'm like, So I got up on like redirect, and I go, doctor, isn't it true that the bigger you are, the harder you fall? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, and so for this big guy to fall out of this bed, you know what I mean? Like, it's a big deal, know, and stuff like that. So you turn that around on him.
Wow.
And then there was another one where an opening, they were like, they were getting up there and they're like, look at his records. He has like, neurocompression, or, like where the spinal cord's hitting, or the hernia disc is hitting his spinal cord. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I got the IME doctor, or their expert radiologist said, I saw a 1 millimeter difference, between the two things. And I was like, and I think one of the jurors asked a question like, what difference does it make if it's 1 millimeter? And he goes, well, it depends on what it's up against. If it's just in space, it's no big deal. But if it's pressing up against a nerve, then it's a big deal. Mm-hmm. So in closing, I got up and I said, he told you in opening that he had neurocompression. So this 1 millimeter thing for this guy mattered. You know what I mean? Like, just did that whole thing. And, it was just one of those great things. And again, and I think, they kind of came off as just, at the beginning, like, we're going to pay whatever we think is, due. And, but then in the end, it was just like, don't give them anything.
Yeah.
So I think that really, So, or like, and they tried to even argue with their own expert and saying, oh, he didn't really have a meniscal tear.
Wow.
And stuff like that. So
I'm impressed because 125 for the knee with no surgery is a fair offer. I get that the guy said no, and then the jury awarded 1.3 with no surgeries.
Yeah, nothing.
And what did they say about the guy limping? Did they say, hey, the guy's limping, why doesn't he? I mean, obviously, it is America. You have the right to get the surgery or not get the surgery, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But I would imagine a jury would ask, well, what if the guy did they bring that up at all? Did they say, hey, why doesn't he just get the surgery on the knee? And
So I didn't get to talk to any of the jurors, after the fact or anything like that. But it was really kind of interesting because, the four woman was a social media influencer. That was her job. She was younger, and stuff like that.
Okay.
And typically when I first started, they're like, oh, you never want young people on the jury. Like, they don't understand, like, forever injuries and like what an impact it has and stuff like that. But, I've heard through the, even through this, seminar, like, no, these millennials, like if you do something wrong, like, they're not going to just be like, oh, well, you just deal with it. So, so it was just a really, really cool case. And, I was really happy. I remember, he was just, tearing up because it was like vindication, and he just had all these problems and, and just being, having his pain belittled for all these years. And, I was like, wiping away tears. I mean, it was just like a great, great experience there. And I always liked going into trial where it's kind of like, David versus Goliath type of things. I mean, they had like two lawyers, they had the corporate rep, they had all this stuff there. And another thing I love to do is take their boards. So like, they had like a board there, their other thing was like, oh, there was no property damage, like on the car, like on the tractor trailer he was in. And so my client was like, well, that picture doesn't show it because the bumper was all bent, but I bent the bumper back because I drove back, later on that day. And so I was like, hey, can I use your board? And I used their board about neurocompression. I'm like, look, it's right here, folks. This is why it's so bad. And I was, just using their boards and stuff like that, which
they're exhibits that they put up on a big board for the jurors to see.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. These huge things. I just love using them. I'm like, and I'm like, how does this not show what they're saying it shows? And I use my arm and like, okay, so the bumper's like out here, and I'm holding the thing because it's just always really important to like bring the jury into the story and stuff like that. And the other, I think, mistake they made was they tried to blame him. My client said, oh, maybe you shouldn't have parked there. And
how was he parked, and how did the accident happen? Someone rear-ended him while he was sleeping.
No, so the guy was coming out of he was like, the defendant driver was coming out of the parking lot.
Okay.
And he was going to turn, make a left-hand turn out onto the main road.
Okay.
And he clipped his car. He clipped the tractor trailer.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a huge, like type of thing.
It wasn't a huge impact, but he felt it obviously because it threw him out of the bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, he basically, they said, maybe you shouldn't have parked there. And they had this sign that said, no overnight parking.
Okay.
And so they were kind of like, oh, maybe, and I said, folks, I'm like, people park there all the time. He's like, that's why they have the sign.
Right.
Because they know people are parking there all the time.
Right.
And they just said, don't just stay here overnight. And then I said too, and I tried to, I said, and the guy's name was Sal. I said, Sal, is this like a big factory? He's like, yeah, there's people coming through all the time, dropping their stuff 24/7. And I'm like, so the other 6 hours when all the other drivers were going past, they weren't hitting you, right? And no one, and I banged on the lectern. I'm like, and nobody was like, bang, 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 Sal, get out of the way. What are you doing? We can't drive past you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was like, don't say that he shouldn't have parked there. The guy hit a parked car. Like, give me a break.
Right. Yeah.
And the other funny thing is analogies too. I loved it because I was in Orlando, and they're trying to think, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't, it wasn't hard hit or anything like that. And I'm like, folks, everyone who's been at Disney, you get on the trams, they go, hold on. Just the fact of them accelerating is why? Because if you're not expecting it, you can fall down and hurt yourself.
Right.
So don't sit here and tell me this wasn't any big deal. The guy's 6 feet in the air trying to climb down this thing all awkwardly, and boom, he hit him. So
wow.
I don't know. It was just one of those things where everything was just flowing.
Yeah.
And
you were in the zone, man.
Yeah.
Top Gun, baby.
It was great.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Wow. That's really awesome. Was that your biggest verdict?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Biggest thus far,
I like what you said thus far, because I could see you going 10, 20, 100. I could see you doing it.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I got some good ones coming up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hopefully get at least one or two this year, potentially.
Is that, do you put that into preparation? Like, do you prepare every case for trial? Is that your...
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's one of those things where, I'm always thinking about it, and just picking, pick up a problem or some issue and thinking, how do I, explain this? How do I, do that kind of stuff? And I'm doing that like all the time. My wife is always like, be more present.
Yeah. You have little kids?
Yeah. I have a, great wife. I got a 4.5-year-old son who's great, awesome, just such a cool kid. I was baseball coach.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like for T-ball. I mean, so it's just kind of like,
hey man,
yeah,
it gets bigger up there. That's cool.
Exactly. And I have a 20-month-old daughter, and she's great and spunky. And,
okay.
Everything like that. So it's sometimes hard to balance the two, but
yeah,
especially when you're in trial. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, honey, I'll see you in a week.
Right. Yeah, you got to deal with the kids. Sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's incredible. I got two kids, a boy and a girl. Same thing. My son's oldest, my daughter, and they're about 15 months apart.
Okay, cool.
So you're pretty close, right? You said your kid's 4?
Yeah, 4.5, and like almost 2.
Yeah, so they're pretty close. Yeah. But honestly, it's amazing watching them grow up. I'm thankful that I have my wife. If you're watching this, I'm thankful that I have my wife. We're actually here in Orlando right now, and my wife. It's our kids' spring break. They're at home. They were supposed to come up here, but they didn't. You're gonna be working all day. Why do we want to come up there so you can? I was like, so I could see you like at night or in the morning or whatever. But
yeah, I tried the same pitch.
yeah. She said, no, I have a 2-bedroom, and Dennis over there has a 2-bedroom. Both of our wives backed out at the last minute. Mm-hmm. But it's fun watching the kids grow up, man. And just, it is hard to be present as a lawyer. It sucks sometimes, right? Because like, I hate to say it, but our family first, but sometimes the client needs something big. There's a big deadline, or you don't want to screw up somebody's life by not being prepared. So you're over preparing to make sure that they get the best outcome.
Yeah.
And sometimes you miss out on certain things, but the weekends I try to always be there. And, I'm turning 40 this year. For pretty much since the pandemic, man, like 5 o'clock most nights of the week, I try to be home. Yeah. Or leave the office at 5. My wife will tell you like 5:36, but my intent is 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
But it is hard. You just mentioned like be present. My daughter did an art thing, and she drew a house, and it was a pretty house with like a sun and a beautiful woman in the front and 2 little kids. And I go, where's dad on this? And she goes, well, you're never around. And I go, I was ready to strangle her, because I'm like, I'm always home by 5, maybe 6, and I'm here on the weekends,
Yeah.
But it's tough. But as they get older, honestly, they get to be so much more fun. That's cool. Your kid's in T-ball and you're coaching it. That's awesome. I encourage you to keep that up because it's, as these kids get older, bro, they're just like video games and they don't want to talk to you anymore now.
Yeah.
My son, he wants to talk with his friends on the iPad. He plays video games with them and then he talks to them all day. I'm like, I'm right here. Could we play a video game together? Like I want to play, he has the Switch, I'm like, hey, let's play Mario Kart or something. So he doesn't want to play with me anymore. He used to love playing with me. Now he wants to play with his friends. I'm like, screw your friends. I'm better than them at Mario Kart, dude.
So, I'm the bigger prize. Beat me.
He does beat me at Mario Kart, which is sad because I'm pretty good. But anyways, that's cool. What do you like to do for fun outside of work?
Let's see. Like I said, a lot of it, revolves around the family. Like I said, we do, we do the T-ball stuff. She does like dance. My little,
cool.
20-month-old, she'll do her little like ballet stuff, and I, try to go there. I've taken her like music classes, and we like to travel. Every summer we go and beat the heat and go up to North Carolina and stuff like that.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'm gonna try to get back into golfing. It's really hard when you have little kids to be like, hey, honey, need 5 hours here on a Sunday, to go play and stuff like that. But I'm gonna try to get back into that and and exercising and stuff like that. So
I tried getting my son into golf. They have like courses where they could teach little kids. Yeah, and he did that. He wasn't a big fan. But maybe that's something you could do is drop your son off there and then you go play golf for 5 hours and make him just hit the ball 5 hours.
Yeah, exactly. No, I definitely see that, like having him come with me and stuff like that, or just letting him, putt or whatever.
Just to hang out, be with your kid, right? It's like, it's fun. I want my kid, I like to go scuba diving. I want my kid to go with me, or at least my son. My daughter, she's a phenomenal swimmer, but I don't know. I'd be too protective of my daughter. But my son, I want him to come with me. He's a little older too, and my wife's like, he's not going scuba diving with you. I was like, what?
Too dangerous.
Yeah. And to be honest, my daughter, she got in the water with me. We went snorkeling in Key West or Key Largo.
Okay.
John Penny Camp. We went to John Penny. Have you been there?
I've been to the Keys.
Okay. It's super nice. We went on like a snorkeling trip and we get in the water and my daughter goes, jellyfish, and starts pushing me towards the damn jellyfish. And so maybe that's why I want to go scuba diving with my son instead, is because she literally pushed me towards the jellyfish. And I'm a perfect swimmer. If I got stung, I got stung. I wasn't worried about it. Yeah. I'm just like, you pushed me towards a jellyfish. I can't trust you anymore. I'm taking you out of the will. You're out. There's no coming back from that.
Slayer statute.
Yeah. You're done. So that's cool. Any future plans for you, for your firm? Anything that you're looking forward to in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, like I said, one thing that I've really kind of enjoyed doing now is really kind of coming in and being, like co-counseling cases with people, where they'll work
litigation.
It up. Yeah, for litigation.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something that's really, kind of interesting to me. Kind of coming in once they've done the pre-suit stuff and really working up the case and trying some cases with some new people. And getting in there and showing them, how I like to do it and stuff like that. And I've done a couple. So whenever I do a trial, I think I've counted like 5 or something like that since COVID reopened.
Okay. Yeah.
And so what I like to do is I always have somebody there on the jury selection because I can't talk and write at the same time, I always say. To the jury. So I'll have them come and sit with me, and help me take notes and stuff like that. You know, and that's kind of been a really fun, collaboration. So that's something I'm kind of looking forward to, is just trying to do more, of that kind of stuff. And typically those are the bigger cases, obviously, and really getting, good results for the clients.
Awesome. So your main focus right now, you would say, is litigation?
Yeah. That's the thing I'm best at. And I've kind of started to realize that, I try to help people and I'm like, why am I doing this? Because I got to figure out all this stuff. And, where it's like, if I just hone in on what I'm good at, which is, going there in front of 6 strangers and talking to them, that means there's nothing like it. It's great, and it's like when you're there in front of them, it's a bubble. It's you. I don't care what the judge says. I don't care what the defense counsel's doing. It's me and those 6 people, and those are the only people I care about.
Right.
And stuff like that. And one of the judges is like, you're kind of soft spoken. And I'm like, okay, and one of the court reporters, like I had a trial and every like third word was, what was that? what was that? And so I would say something, look at the jury, and I would just look back at her and say, repeat it,
Wow.
It's stuff. But I just like that. It's like the great equalizing thing. You know what I mean? And people come like, can you take on this big company or whomever? And I'm like, yes, because I don't care. At the end of the day, it's me and those 6 people, and that's all I care about.
Do you get a rush from being in the trial? Do you get like a runner's high or something like that being there?
Yeah. I mean, it's like great, cause you're just totally amped up, and just hitting on all cylinders and stuff like that. And, then of course at night you just kind of collapse and, and get some sleep and get ready for the next day.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But, I like like how it's, where you don't have to do everything the first day. Like witness on Thursday, so you don't have to prep until Wednesday, that type of thing. And I kind of like how it's not, like I've done a couple cases where it's like one day, and that's really hard. We get to prep the whole thing like in one day, and and stuff like that. So
yeah, how long was that trial with the trucker?
That one, I think we picked a jury on Monday, and then by like Thursday at like 8:00 or something like that. And that was an interesting one too, because it was right around COVID. And one of the
during
jurors,
or it was before or during?
Well, it was kind of like during, I guess, in the sense of we didn't have to wear masks, but if we went and did a sidebar, the judge was like, put your mask on and stuff like that.
Okay. So I can get COVID over here, but I can't get COVID over here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're too close or whatever.
Yeah.
And that one was kind of interesting because one of the jurors, I guess, called like on Tuesday and said, I'm sick with COVID, which I kind of doubt. I mean, I don't know if she really had it or not. Like it was just, I didn't want to be there type of thing. But, and so we were like talking ahead of time, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like, because the judge's like, we have to tell the jurors, like, what do they want to do? Do they want to take a break for the day and everybody get tested and like all this other stuff? And, one of the jurors, I think, was wearing a mask the whole time. We get there and we kind of like bring the jury in, and the judge is like, I want to tell you that one of your former people called and they're sick and blah, blah, blah. And everyone just like crickets. Like they just all sat there and, and the judge is like, what do you guys think? And one guy goes, can we just keep going? Can we just go on?
Thank God for that guy.
And I was just like, he's like, yeah. The judge's like, we can do that, And so I was like, all right, go ahead and call your next witness.
Okay.
And I was just like, and then of course I'm like it's not that day that I'm worried about, it's the next day, right? Because if they start going down,
yeah,
and stuff like that. So
wow, that's incredible. Wow, yeah, nowadays everybody tells me for work, I think I'm getting a fever. I think I'm getting a fever and I have a fever are two different things.
Yeah,
get the fever and then tell me about it. Don't not come into work because you think you're getting a fever, but. Yeah, it's everybody gets a pass now with like ever since COVID. It's like I feel sick. Give me some space or whatever. I'm going to take a few days off.
Oh yeah, okay. yeah. Like it's the excuse of the century.
Yeah,
it's like COVID, and or I was sick, or I had COVID, or all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, awesome. How long did it take that jury to come back with that award? Do you remember roughly?
Yeah, I think we ended probably right around 5. That day, and then I know or maybe it was early. I think it was like 3 in the afternoon, because I went and had a coffee. And, there's like a coffee place right across the street, and then I went and had dinner, and so I think they came back around like 7 or 8. When I came out, it was February, so it was, dark out and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, okay, wow. So a few hours.
Yeah, so they were there for a while.
Wow.
And like I said, it was and the other thing too is they got dinner. So they never come back before they get their food. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times they'll order lunch, if it's in the afternoon. And so if they're getting fed, you at least get a couple hours out of them.
Yeah. Well, you definitely want them to eat before they come up with that number. Because I mean, personally, I get hangry real quickly. So I'll be like, give that guy 300. Let's get out of here. I'm starving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, wow. So that's an incredible story. And that's a really incredible result for your client. So congrats on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Super happy for them and everything like that.
So, all right. So just, if you want, look at that part of the camera right there. And then just, I'll just say, so if people want to get a hold of you, they want to contact you, they love your results on these cases, maybe they want to co-counsel some cases with you.
Yep.
How could they get a hold of you?
Yeah. Give me a call at the office, 941-210-6000. You can send me an email. It's the letter J, Horne, which is my last name, at jhornelaw.com or jhornelaw.com. Just reach out. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about anything, med mal, personal injury, that you may have, or litigation questions.
Jay, tell me, where do you guys handle cases? Anywhere in the country, anywhere in the state, just in a specific region?
Yeah. So right now, I handle them all over the state. Yeah, I take them all over the state. Like I said, Orlando, Tampa. Had a couple down in Miami and stuff like that. Really, wherever. Had a couple, and down in like Lee County and Naples and that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. Well, if anybody needs to get a hold of an amazing litigation attorney, personal injury, med mal, gonna fight for you, do everything, go to trial, let's go. You know who to call. Give him a buzz. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
All right, cool. And hey, thanks so much for being here, dude.